And we are live. Welcome back to the Mecca of Banter podcast, the podcast where we all get on here and talk a little footy with a little bit of banter. I am this week's host, Henry Wind. You can find me on Twitter at Henry Wind. Let's get into the fellas. Welcome to the pod this week. I'll start off by saying it's a great week to be a Manchester United fan. I will say that. The thing is, when you're the only team in this podcast that have taken 4 points from your last six, that it's a good week to be a Manchester United fan. But I digress. We'll get there in a little bit. Nick Hayflinger, back from Colorado. How are you doing today?
We are great, feeling good. Just in life. As a Chelsea supporter, on the other hand, sheesh, it's been a weekend. Let's say that. But yeah, Hayfy4 on Twitter. I think I said it a couple of podcasts ago, but we're just inhaling and exhaling as a Chelsea fan over here. Drop points this weekend, obviously. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, excited to talk about it.
I am also excited to talk about it. I can't wait.
Henry loves talking about Chelsea.
Oh, I love talking about Chelsea. I'll do it every week.
I love it.
Lucas Winkleman, check in, man. How you doing?
What's up, gents? I'm well. At LCW21 on Twitter. Big weekend. Big week ahead against City. So excited to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, super stoked. It'll be a good pod today. Andy Hoover, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty well. Similar to
better
Nick.
Response than I thought.
Similar to Nick. And a little bit different from Nick too. Sometimes you just know you're on a roller coaster with Tottenham Hotspur. So when you know that, that's okay. And I think
you also just didn't spend $600 million.
You make an extremely valid point. We are 12 days away from the MLS season, which is St. Louis City. That's who we're supporting today.
I never would have known that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We'll get there someday, but yeah, good to be here, lads.
Happy to have you. I feel like at some point we'll have to do like an MLS segment at some point, but round us out. Connor Sandobri, welcome to the pod. How you doing?
What's going on, fellas? Great to see you. Every day is a great day when Eric Ten Hag is your manager, so no complaints from me. Extremely happy to dive into this conversation today. You know, somehow the pod always works out. Like when we look like shit last week against Leeds, we haven't recorded since then, and then we get a dub against Leeds yesterday. So it's perfect timing for us.
It's just great. It's just great timing. Happy
These
to
guys
have
dodge
you.
bullets.
Well, we have a great episode for you tonight, listeners. We're going to get into our weekly recap per usual. We're going to go over our last Prem games that we had, and we're also going to look ahead to the Champions League fixtures that we have this week, as well as
that some of us have. Not all of us have. Only some of us have Champions League.
I think you got to realize that you can only give that so much now because
that's all I'm saying.
Next year.
No, give me something. Jeez.
No, because next year, Hen and I will be 10 times worse than you even are now.
Hey, who says we might win it? Hey.
So we're going to dive into the Champions League games for those who are in it.
Thank you.
And then we're going to look ahead to the big game this week, which is City Arsenal. And then we'll finally round out with some Europa League fixtures. So let's get into our weekly recap here. We're going to start off with the cracker of a game, Chelsea West Ham, a 1-1 finish. We saw some good things. We saw a lot of bad things. But before we dive into those, Nick, do you want to give us your overarching recap of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think before we get into it, like by no means are we happy as Chelsea supporters, like, or me, myself, like I'm not happy with this result, dropping points to West Ham in a game that we need to win after, of course, like I just said, spending $600 million. There's injuries. Yes, I still think we have a decent amount of them. I know I've said it multiple times,
under 10.
but
You're
they're
under
not.
10.
I know. I agree. And what did I say? I said I'd start being critical, and that's where we're at.
You're under 10 last game too.
The first 20 minutes made me very happy. And I don't know if you guys watched the full game, but the first 20 minutes of the game made me very, very happy. Someone who thoroughly impressed me, and I pray to God we sign him afterwards, is João Felix. I think What he does to our team, we haven't had in a very long time. The creativity that I think I've talked about multiple times that we've missed, I think he brings. And also, like, what kind of goes hand in hand with that is Kai. One realization I had, and once again, you guys have been bashing him forever. I still think he's out of position. I still think there's a good player. I'm not going to say world class because I do overuse that word. I think he's a good player, and I do want Chelsea to keep him because I think he brings value. In that game, I think he also stood out like a sore thumb because what he's normally been doing with Mason Mount as a center mid is dropping in, trying to receive balls, where this time João Felix was in that space. So he was having to make runs in behind defenders. And as you see, and it's a note on our outline, he had 5 offsides and he leads the Premier League in offsides. I think that's due to the fact that he's not a striker and he's doing something that he's not normally used to doing. I don't know. And once again, that could just be an excuse, but I do think he stood out like a sore thumb with João Felix playing incredibly. After that, the worst part for me, and I think that Graham Potter deserves the most slack for, is Cucurella. I think he is so bad. And I genuinely, and I don't want to like say the game or how he plays decided on one player, but literally he stops our buildup every single time he has the ball. And it requires us to keep possession in our defensive third, which is not what we need to be doing. And it bothers me so much because, as we've been talking about, that's a Graham Potter decision now. Chilwell is fully healthy. And that's a decision I think that was an awful one by him. I'm happy he brought Chilwell in. When Chilwell came on, I think it was obvious that he was a better left back than Cucurella. I also feel super bad for Mudryk because he had to be on the same side as Cucurella, who couldn't even get him the ball the entire first half. And the moment that Cucurella gets subbed off, so does Mudryk, who doesn't get the chance to be in there with Ben Chilwell. I'm very excited for the Champions League game to see this lineup, and I think that Ben Chilwell and Mudryk will finally get that partnership. Sorry, I went on a little rant there, but I want some input from you guys.
It's fine, bro. I think, you were spot on with like the first 20 minutes. I thought that Chelsea looked awesome. For what it's worth, I did wake up at 6:30 in the morning to watch this game.
It was 5:30 for me.
5:30 for me.
That is true. I figured I really wanted to watch this game, knowing that the injury excuse couldn't be made. So I was like, let's see what Potter's made of. Let's see what Chelsea's made of. First 20 minutes, the Felix's goal. I thought even just the run that he made just to get open.
Oh, the ball.
Enzo, that's another
Enzo
person I didn't talk
ball.
about. Enzo played very well. I was very happy with him.
But the little run he made, I was like, dog, no one on Chelsea's making those runs other than him. And it was like a 3-step run into the box. But I mean, just absolute class. And I know that it's probably a little bit of a dagger that Emerson scored, the former Chelsea man scored. But, I quite honestly didn't realize before listening to the Mecca moments with you and Jake. Listeners, if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen to that one. Nick and Jake dive super deep into Chelsea, but Jake made a point about Cucurella not progressing the ball, and you just alluded to it too. I think I looked up a stat after the game that he made 2 forward passes the entire game. Every pass he made was sideways or backwards. It's horrible. That's so bad for a Prem.
That's
wingback.
miserable.
It's
60
terrible.
million.
It's terrible. I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, that one hurts me. And like I said, I don't want to say that like that entire game was on Cucurella, but like it truly does impact our style of play when we can't progress the ball out of our back, because once it gets swung to his side, we're absolutely screwed. And you can even see like the way our team reacts to him. Like Enzo is not making a darting run anymore. He has to fully drop in, and every time Cucurella gets the ball, and it's just, I think it's so obvious. And I'm hoping he saw it as well, and that's why he made the sub. But I don't know. We'll see.
I think Chelsea's biggest issue, because obviously we saw, like, I made some notes from the game, and like the first 15 minutes, like it was Chris passing like sideways. But I think from the first 15 minutes of the game, or even the first 5 minutes, you could see exactly how West Ham wanted to play and how they have played under Moyes, where they sit in a block of, it's almost like, I don't even know what it turns into. It's like 5-4, then Antonio sits up top. And Chelsea going with like a brand new midfield 3, like the ability for them when you get the ball in the final third to break down West Ham and move that ball sideways quickly to create those gaps, and also not having that like number 9 that makes those runs in behind to kind of open up those gaps becomes
And
extremely
stays
difficult.
onside.
It just becomes extremely difficult to play through, especially when a Loftus-Cheek who's just coming back from healthy. You have Enzo.
I thought he looked great. Not
Yeah,
great. I thought he looked good.
he was
I thought
he very
played
solid,
fine.
very solid. But at the same time, never play with Enzo. And Enzo, João Felix, that midfield 3, which oftentimes is the most important in breaking down a low block and swinging that ball quickly side to side, just did not do that. And I think that's where Potter needed to adjust a little bit and find a different way to try to score. But I think that is going to take a little bit of time to form that cohesion in the midfield, because, I mean, how many times do we sit here on this podcast and say these games are won and lost in the midfield? Because oftentimes it is the most important position on the field. And you really saw the disjointedness of those 3 trying to like swing the ball from side to side, get people in. And especially against a team where there's a low block like West Ham, it's going to absolutely hurt you if you can't move it quickly.
No, I
West
agree.
Ham, they sit in. They do it well. They're not the most exciting team to watch. I hate playing West Ham. I also hate watching West Ham, but they get the job done. I am curious how long Potter's going to last if results like this keep it up.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I know last week our factor cap was literally if we saw him being fired or not, and I said I didn't. And if you asked me this week, my answer might have changed just because of the amount of I think I said it, and I told you guys that I would start criticizing him after the injury list dwindled, but everyone is kind of doing that. Like after this performance, like the social media and the Chelsea social media is definitely like now questioning, was that the right decision? So like now, like that I see that shift, like I don't know, I could see anything now. Like if he drops a couple more points, then it's the price tag. We spent $600 million. Like we have to start getting results.
That game was very much in the balance, and I'm going to bring Hoove in here because I know he had a different take than most. Like either team looked like they could win, and we kind of have to mention that controversial, like at the end of the game, that like
the
handball, but like at the same time, the league has kind of been consistent on not calling it a handball. Like I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, because in my opinion, if I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm Nick, I'm furious.
Explain what happened for the people that didn't see it. Explain what happened.
So essentially, who was it for West Ham? Was it Souček?
Yeah.
So who hit it too? I forget who hit it.
Gallagher.
Gallagher. Long story short, Conor Gallagher had the ball probably about 20, 25 yards out in between there. Hit a shot that looked like it was going low to the right side, and Souček slid, and his plant hand, essentially the ball smoked it. It looked like, I don't know if it necessarily prevented it from going in, but it looked like it was definitely going to be on target. And the refs didn't call it. The game went on. There's a lot of sort of heat that came afterwards. Why it seemed like VAR looked at it, but for like no longer than like 30 seconds.
Unreal.
So curious as to like what your guys' thoughts on there, because I know I'd be furious if that happened to us.
What I think on this one, so my comparison was Romero against City, and like extremely similar style situation to where defender sliding, going down. How are you going to penalize a guy who's just going to brace his own fall? That's the argument, and that's what the league's been mildly consistent about this year, which is pretty much the only thing that we've ever asked for on this podcast. So now that we're getting subjective, Souček did that, but it looked way more uncomfortable. And it wasn't like he was sliding at full force to the sense of he needed to get his plant hand down so that he wouldn't like hurt himself.
And he's sliding to block the shot. His whole intent of sliding was to block the shot. It wasn't to tackle Gallagher. He was 10 yards away. He's going down to block it.
Yeah,
and he uses his hand as more distance to cover. I think it's a for sure handball. I agree though, but I think it's similar to yours, and I think Romero's that's a handball too.
That's the only thing that they would tell you that you're wrong about now, because that's how they've just been this year. And I see where it comes from. Like I can see like the issue with it, but I also see for once they're maybe trying to do something that's like, hey, this doesn't make sense for it to be a handball because what is he going to do? That one was suspect. Like I thought Romero's was more obvious in the sense that that man was flying at the ball, just trying to put a block in, and his arm was down. Like it wasn't like
Souček looks like a goalie. Like he literally looks like he's
Souček came down
to block the
pretty
goal.
late.
Yeah.
Came down pretty late. I thought it was consistent, at least with what they were going to call, if not extremely subject, and I'd be pretty pissed.
I'd be so mad.
Yeah,
I'd be so mad
pretty
if I was a Chelsea fan, especially like the angle behind Gallagher where you see the path of the ball, and who knows, maybe it's a save, but to block it that way
pretty weak
inside,
shot.
I mean, that's brutal.
I think it's going in.
That was nuts.
I think
That
the
was
last
nuts.
piece, I'd be remiss, and I'm going to sound like a broken record when I talk about Chelsea because I say this so much. Like Thiago Silva is fucking unbelievable. Like he's honestly like Ja was good, Enzo was good, but for me, like he was that tackle he made, that perfectly timed sliding tackle. It's like a Wan-Bissaka tackle, but he is just a world class defender that always deserves his praise.
Yeah, that's a great shout because I completely agree with you. He's unbelievable, and he just recently signed his contract extension for us, so that makes me
38-year-old still balling.
That's
another year.
Yeah.
Rolls Royce.
Well, we'll get back to Chelsea here in a little bit with the Champions League preview, but we're moving on to Brentford Arsenal. It was a 1-1 draw. This was one of my favorite games of the weekend, to be honest with you. This was so fun to watch. Even better when Arsenal drops points. But Lucas, going to bring you in here. Give us the recap of the game and your thoughts.
Yeah, let's break this down. We were in desperate need of a response after last week against Everton, so this was quite a painful one. We had more chances, but not the better ones, in my opinion. We know Trossard came on for Martinelli and scored a backdoor goal in the second half. And rewatching that game, Trossard looked good, and congrats to him on scoring his first goal as a gunner. Excited to see him score many more, but truthfully, I don't really think that the left side looked a whole lot different with him out there versus Martinelli. Him and Saka were making those kind of diagonal runs in between defenders or along the outside for most of the game anyways, and I think that Martinelli scores that goal if he's given the chance to. But man, we miss Gabriel Jesus, man, and that's why he's my background this week. He's still out till mid-March. And Eddie's been great and has been scoring, but I think that at the end of the day, there's
Didn't you say he was a top 3 Prem striker?
Different players. We're missing an energy and a pressure up top that our proven Premier League winning striker provides against center backs, and I think that that's something that Eddie's still developing. Winning duels, making runs in behind, checking into space and laying it off, connecting more with our wingers and Odegaard, and just creating havoc like we've seen him do for City. Then we get to Ivan Toney's goal. Defensively, I don't care who you are. Losing like 3 headers in the box like that is unacceptable. However, the goal shouldn't have counted.
That's fucking crazy.
for those who didn't watch, VAR drew the wrong offside line when they were checking the build up to the goal. They were focused on whether, I think it was Pinnock, however you say his name, fouled Gabriel on the build-up, but missed that Norgard was offside when he ended up assisting Ivan Toney. So there's some body, it's like the PGOML or something like that, that's responsible for the officials in the Premier League, and they admitted that it was a major VAR human error. So that sucks. And in a title race like this halfway through the season where 3 points versus 1 is crucial, it's painful to see mistakes like that made. And, we see VAR make mistakes for all of our clubs, so I'm not trying to say that it only happens to us, but with City beating Villa on Sunday, they closed the gap to 3 points, so that blows. But
where's your panic meter? Where's your panic meter at? I don't think it's by any means like a season defining result, but where's your panic meter at right now?
I'll let you know after Wednesday, my man.
I think this is just a outsider looking in. I think it's pretty high. Winks, your team is in first place right now, and you sound like you're miserable.
I'm upset, but your panic meter is always high, so I'm not worried about.
Dude, good over here.
I want to give a shout out to Corey Clausen, a guy that we played college soccer with. He's an Arsenal fan, and he has a lot of opinions. I retweeted something a couple weeks ago about how Rashford has more goal contributions than Saka and Martinelli combined, something like that, like whatever, 2-3 weeks ago. He responded to me on Twitter saying, don't retweet bullshit stats on my timeline, and threw a little jab about, whenever Man United start playing well, then I can talk, which I was like, trust, it's going to happen.
Bookmark that.
Yeah. Yesterday, he reached out to me in the DMs and was not as confident as an Arsenal fan. So, just having a little fun with him, asked him what happens with the dropped points against, your last 2 games, and then what happens if you lose against City. And instead of saying like, we still got this, I still feel confident, he said, well, hey, bottling 8 points, I wouldn't really consider that a bottle job. It's the whole half of the season. If we get caught up by 8 points, so I think the panic meter is up.
Already in their head.
Is up, bro. It's
already
way
in
up.
the head.
It's way up.
We do at the same time. Like Brentford has done this to a lot of teams, and yes, yes, that goal is offsides. But how many times do we see in the first half where like Tony missed that wide open chance? Like there was chances in that game that Brentford just didn't finish, to where like Arsenal, I don't want to call them lucky to tie 1-1, but like that game very easily early in the game could have been 2 or 3-0 if Brentford took their chances. And they've done it to United. They've done it to everybody.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was going to touch on next was, props to Brentford. Was reading some articles after the game and kind of throughout the weekend, and something that was similar across everything that I read was that when Brentford plays a Big Six club, they switch formations to a 3-5-2 from whatever they normally play. And so flat out, they defended our wings really well, clogged up a lot of space in the middle. Nowhere near the level of when we played Everton, in my opinion, the week before, but like similarly, super compact. They were able to have like 3 guys out on the wing at a time, really blocking Martinelli and Saka's ability to take on that wing back or that center back that's shifting over one-on-one and try and dribble them. And then like we just talked about, we were massively hurt on counterattacks, even though we dominated possession, which is a staple for us. But the counters, give Brentford a swing of momentum that we shouldn't have allowed them to get. So
I have a question, Lucas.
Big chances. It's big chances, even with all the possession. It's big chances.
Their expected goals were
yeah. This is outrageous. Expected goals 2.01 for Brentford, 1.55 for Arsenal.
When I say my jaw dropped when Tony missed that shot in the first half, I mean, I was literally just, I don't know how he missed. But Lucas, something that I want to get your thoughts on. We're halfway through the season now, or a little bit more. And Arsenal, something that we talked about when Elliot was on the pod was just how consistent they are. They play so consistently, is what I mean. Like the way that they play, the system that they play is super consistent. Is there any worry in you that teams have like figured out how to play against the system now? I guess I was like expecting a little bit more second half adjustment from, Arteta, and it just didn't really seem to happen, other than a sub here and there. But like, do you think teams have figured it out?
I don't think so. We see a lot of these like lower half of the table teams play completely differently a bit against Big Six clubs than they do the rest of the tables. And, we saw Brentford beat you guys earlier this year. And so like top Big Six teams are going to lose to teams that they shouldn't. And that kind of stuff just happens. I think that the ball didn't. Yeah. On
I'm
paper,
with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that we're figured out yet, and we're awaiting the return of, a guy who will greatly affect the way that we play ball in the final third. And something that, Dode was talking about was that Arsenal was missing that bit of quality in the final third. And I think that showed. Nketiah kind of seemed to be on an island that game. So having somebody like Gabriel Jesus that causes havoc as soon as we have him back will definitely help us. But no, I think that it was just an unfortunate run of 2 games here, and this next one's going to be a big tell for how we play the rest of the season. But I know we'll get into that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Griff listens to every single one of these podcasts. and he won't text me and say that his panic meter's a 10, but I already know that this man's panic meter is a fucking.
I'm sure
like,
it is.
It's a 12.
See, and this is
I texted you last week. It's like a
big thing is-
cancer to Arsenal. It spreads.
these
Once
guys-
that thought,
besides Zinchenko and like Jesus, like who have been there and done this and been in a title race and dealt with this pressure of being in first, a lot of these guys haven't done it before. And so that's why we'll see it's this game Wednesday. We'll get into it a little bit, but this game Wednesday is fucking massive.
Yeah, we talked about it, and I get asked this question. I've gotten asked this question like every other podcast on how I'm feeling, but as an Arsenal fan and how the last 5, 6, 7 years have gone, a lot of us have learned to prepare ourselves for the worst, knowing that that's historically what's happened in the last handful of years. So
I can confidently say that Winks is my favorite Arsenal fan because he does take that little bit of salt with him, and he said this all the beginning of the start of the season. He's true to his word. So,
cheers, Winks.
I'm excited. This it would be
exciting.
super fun to blow out and win the league, but I think that this will make all of the games from here on out that much more interesting to watch. It's not like the last 3-4 games of the season we're up by so many points that I don't even need to watch the games. Like now, I'll be even more invested now.
I
We
do
have
wish you were
title
like
race in a
GP. I
minute.
wish you were like JP so much because we could just sit on here and flame you and torch you, but it really sucks. That you're
And
not.
you can't. I'll just ignore you like I did.
But no, that's what I mean. You're a realist, and JP is just like Arteta is God. Yeah,
a dreamer.
Yeah.
It's okay. Sometimes
is
the
God,
dreamers have more fun.
Well,
I get it.
Well, it was said just a second ago, but we haven't had an actual title race like this in a while. It's been a two-team, two-team race for a long time. And now, not saying that all of the top 4 is in the race or even the top 6 is in the race, but 10 points separate first and fourth, which is exciting. And that's close enough for me to be really excited about the rest of the season. Moving on to Tottenham and Leicester. It was a 4-1 loss for Tottenham. And I will say, as a fan of the sport, I love watching goals. I love good goals, and there was a ton of them in this game. As a fan of the sport, I hate seeing knee injuries. I fucking hate it, and not a worse guy for it to happen to than Bentancur. So Hoove, my condolences for you. But let's get into the game.
Yeah. I think a couple guys out for a foreseeable future that immediately impacted the game. Lloris is out another 4 weeks with an ankle, something. Basuma's out with ankle injury for the season. He's getting ligament surgery. And then, Bentancur in like the 60th, maybe, not even. I think it was before that. He was out, and there was immediate panic on the field. Like Harry Kane and those guys are over there, like waving to the trainers. Like that's, immediately. And he was. So confirmed ACL 6 to 8 months. He may not be back till like next September. So,
Yeah.
And that Dobes just said how important your midfield is, and he's such a fun guy to watch, and I'm afraid that he does maybe have an injury bug. And he's one of those guys that can't keep a stretch of games. But into the game, you see how important Hugo is. I've trashed him all year. It is what it is. What's a howler or two when you can stop a shot? Fraser Forster, whatever, is an old man, and I don't blame him particularly because I think a lot of the shots that he did end up facing were slighted against him, but he looked horrible, dude. I mean, like just slow off his line, slow, side to side, slow. That sucks to watch after, and then you're like, oh shit, Hugo's actually like world class. I think he is. He won a World Cup. I'm good with throwing that word around there, but he does. His mental mistakes here and there. That is what it is. But he sucked. So Romero was suspended from City. I think it's so unbelievably noticeable on the back line when he's not in, and I don't blame Tanganga because I think he's just a guy who has to get thrown into those positions here and there. But that's a drop in quality. And then you have Eric Dyer as your man who's all the way back, which he usually is with Romero, but there's a lot more coverage there on the right side. And then Pedro Porro starts for the first time next to Tanganga. We're talking about a just clusterfuck, frankly, of guys on the field. Even Perisic had just a terrible game, which is wild because I've beat that drum all year. Sometimes guys just go to their country and play better and are great and come back. And it's like, well, they don't have it every week. So he played poorly. I think residually that means Ben Davies played poorly on the left because Ben Davies wasn't finding him towards the end of the game on the wide parts. And that was exactly where they coughed up 2 goals and Eric Dyer was in no man's land. So Leicester was fine. I think Leicester capitalized on every chance they had. There were only 1 or 2 other shots that could have gone in that game. But other than that, another Mendy, who I don't know, scores a screamer off of a corner. Yeah, dude, scores a screamer. Like that one went in.
Rocket.
I was sitting there and it was 1-1 and I was like, damn. Like that was a missile, bro. I wasn't even mad. And you check the tape. Perisic stopped. Perisic was closing him out, stopped, got on a knee, like in like a defensive knee position to block him, like 5 yards from him. What are you doing, dog? Like, get to the ball. It was insane. His brain was shut off for 70 minutes of that game. So I don't want to slight Pedro Porro either. I think he was in a tough position.
Give him some time.
Give him some time. There were short moments where he on the ball was awesome. Like you could see the talent, you could see the technique. And then a lot of times he was just caught out. Like he was out of position a lot because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's playing next to a guy that isn't also the starting right center back. And Leicester punished him. So yeah, that's Spurs, bro. You win against the champions, and then you try and build on a game, and you throw a ragtag team together and look terrible. So
very Spursy, very Spursy.
I try so hardly to escape that word, and I can't because it keeps happening. So I mean, I've ridden this roller coaster for years. It's kind of what I've come to expect, and at the end of the day, reality check, we're 5th with a lot of games left and 4 points above Brighton, who's good. So I think there's no reason to panic. I mean,
Newcastle, I would say another positive. Newcastle also dropped points. So you guys are still points. 2 points. You guys are 2 points off of 4th.
My roommate Lipple calls him Draw Castle. You can just assume that that's going to happen. So it is what it is. You move, you're still in the Champions League. You hope that you're not throwing out a midfield of 2 20-year-olds, but we'll also get to that eventually here. So, I don't know. Did you guys? I was trying to flip a little bit back and forth between Brentford, and then I switched completely. I don't even remember the 4th goal. So there could have been another one. He's offside. So I don't know.
I think Hoof, and this isn't even like shit talking, but like, what does Richie have to do to buy a goal?
Not play on the right.
Yeah, like is it strictly just him
play his normal position?
Like I completely has glossed over me, and I 100% would have given you more shit if I'd known he hadn't scored yet.
Yeah,
like I just saw that tweet for the first time yesterday. That was like, in the league, but he still has no goals in the league.
You're right. He had a double against Marseille. That was fucking sweet. So I do think we can't forget that. But he's playing on the right. He's playing behind Kulusevski. Kulusevski didn't have a great game either, but it's a Conte thing, dude. Like you guys can talk about mid-game adjustments. You can talk about how you're changing your shape for different teams. That's not something that Conte does. Conte doesn't make game adjustments. Conte doesn't change the shape of his team. So he's not playing in a squad that even allows him to play in the position that I think he's strongest at. And he's playing behind a guy who has up until, recently been extremely consistent for Spurs when he's been healthy. Like, Kulusevski's not.
When healthy, he's undroppable. Yeah, you can't.
Undroppable.
Yeah.
He's insane, dude. He's insane. And he's not the fastest player in the world. And I think just like his creativity and like runs, I like the intangibles he does are nuts. But Richie can't get into that side. So I think, the Champions League is a game that maybe calls for Richie just to be a pest in the San Siro. We can get into that later, but dude, the league run. He's just not playing. And when he does, he's playing on the right and in a winger role. That's still, they want him to get in the middle, but he's not cutting in on his left and having shots from outside the box. Like, he needs to be in the box in scrums. He needs to be on the end of balls. Like, so it's frustrating. I think I rate him. I think he's awesome. And I think his mentality and drive is so good and what you want on a team that you have to get him on the field to some degree. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He strikes me too as a really like confidence type player. Like, catches cut running games,
start
just
consistently.
bags.
Yeah, to get going. And between Kulusevski and Harry Kane, they're both kind of undroppable. Where it's like, it's very tough to find a way to make him fit. Unless you play Kane as a 10, which may happen in the future. But
I mean, dude, you sent me the video of his pass to Perisic in the first 10 minutes of that game. It was insane.
That's the stuff that gets me so bricked up.
It was
on
incredible.
A dime.
And then Perisic put it 6 yards right.
Would have been sick.
Would have been sick. But I don't have too much else there.
Yeah, my big nervousness for you all is just your midfield. Now with the injuries that you have, I just don't think you all have the depth right now. And
no,
like we talk most weeks about how it's suffer ball, Conte ball is suffer ball, and it might just turn into an even worse version of that the rest of the season.
And I think the kids that we've been left with, and Højbjerg's going to play 90 minutes every single game for the rest of the season, and that's what he's built for. So like, that's fine. He's good. He's consistent. I think Butch is right. I don't cut him slack sometimes as he pisses me off, but he's good and consistent. And then you're talking about 20 to 22-year-olds who in a couple years might be those guys, but to have the weight of what the rest of the season brings on their shoulders is going to be something to watch for sure.
Something to watch indeed. Moving on to what was my favorite game of the weekend. United Leeds. 2-0 win for United, coming off of a 2-2 tie to Leeds just a couple of days ago. Dopes, give us your thoughts.
This was as the neutral. This is a fucking tough watch. There wasn't much beautiful soccer that was played in this game. I mean, until at least 70 minutes. I think you really see, like, from the first game and even this game this past weekend, like, these two teams fucking hate each other. Like, the fans hate each other. This rivalry is as real as it gets. It's nice to have Leeds back, and truthfully, it's great to have that sort of physicality in a game. Before I kind of dive into United, we have to mention Adams and McKennie, because in both games, Adams he's just a fucking dog. And you saw it in the first 2 minutes of this second game. He put in I think it was Sancho that he just dropped. And you saw Wes getting the tackles, and I love Wes's little, like, I don't even know what it is, but it's almost that little pest in him where he holds the ball too long. He gets in people's faces. Like, they're both built for the Prem. And it's so cool to see, like, these two guys who in the first half, they dominated the United midfield. And you saw a Sabitzer, Fred, Fernandez midfield who's never played together play against the McKennie Adams midfielder who's played together since they were 12. So, like, the whole game was sort of ugly. And I think I don't really have much to say about the first half, but I know, Hen, you're going to touch on it too. Game was extremely ugly. We don't win that game if we don't have Erik ten Hag as our manager, because, and I think that's the difference between like a Potter and an Erik ten Hag, because we don't have our full starters, and I won't even use injuries as an excuse. We don't have our starters, and a great manager can make the adjustments to win you a game. And that's exactly what Erik ten Hag did. If you asked me in a million years what I think that Wout Weghorst playing the number 10 role was going to change the game and help us win, I would say you're fucking nuts. But that's exactly what Erik ten Hag did.
We didn't know Wout Weghorst 3 months ago, brother.
Exactly. Big 6'6". And the moment that for 65 minutes of that game, there was no real possession, maybe we had some chances, but once he subbed on Rashford and put Rashford in the middle and dropped Wout into the 10 and brought Garnacho on, the game switched like that. United had possession. United was creating chances. United was dominating the game. And that's where a manager can win you a game, because we didn't have our best stuff by any means. We weren't playing that free-flowing Ten Hag football, but Ten Hag's a football nut. He's a football genius. And the ability to make that switch and change the game like that was unbelievable. Then you got to give Rashford his credit 100%. Unbelievable fucking header. I don't care what anybody says. He has most goals since the World Cup. He is top 3, if not the best player in the world at the moment. And also, last thing, and then Hen, I'll let you go. For any United fans that have gave Garnacho shit after the last Leeds game, like, shut your fucking mouth. The kid is 18 years old. He's 18 years old. He missed 2 chances against Leeds and comes out and has a like worldie and sits there and goes to the crowd and just. So Eric Ten Hag, man of the match, deserved result in a rivalry game. Don't think we win that a few years ago. So happy with the result, and we move on.
Yeah, I think the main thing that was really apparent for both the Leeds games, to be honest with you, we've talked for months now about Casemiro's influence on this team and how whenever he's not in the side for red cards or injuries or yellow card accumulation or whatever it may be, there's a noticeable difference. And it's really highlighted in this second game. So the first game, we had Martinez and we had Varane. Leeds played a super high press. They kind of really flustered United's defense for the whole first half of the first game. But in the second game, we had a back line of Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw in the middle. And then we had Sabitzer and Fred in front of them. And all of a sudden, De Gea looked like the De Gea of last year on the ball. And something just kind of like clicked in my brain of like last year, I watched him spray balls all across the field, a lot of times out of bounds, just kicking it wherever. And this year, the whole first half of the season, I was like, Ten Hag did a lot of work with him. He's playing the ball. He's finding passes. He's doing all of that. But suddenly, when you take out the spine of a team, so your 2 center backs, your center defensive midfield, and then Eriksen, don't forget about him, it's different. Can't find a pass. De Gea is just booting the ball wherever he can, and he looks terrible on the ball. So I think that the Casemiro not being in the lineup creates a lot of difficulty in breaking out possession, even when even if Casemiro doesn't find the ball every single time off the defense or every single time off of De Gea, he just shows for the ball in a way that no one else does right now. My one criticism of Sabitzer, he's played, great in the times and the minutes that he's had, but a little bit of my criticism is that he does a little bit of what Scott McTominay does, and he hides sometimes when we're breaking out possession. If you watch Scott McTominay play in a 6 role, it's laughable about how often he hides behind the other center midfielder from the other team. Like, basic math is like, that math ain't math, and you can't receive a ball when you're behind the other team's defender. But to echo you, Dobes, I think the halftime adjustment was incredible. There's something about Rashford playing down the middle that opens up the field, and I don't know why. Literally every time he's moved into the 9, United have scored. Every single time. And whether he scores or someone else does, I don't understand what it is, but the rest of the team just figures out spacing. Sancho looked good. He didn't get any goal contributions, but I think he also got faster when he went out to the Netherlands training. There was a couple of times where he ran in behind defenders and, surprised me at how fast he was. But we have a huge game coming up this week with Barcelona, and I'm curious to get into that, but really stoked on this win.
The last thing I'll say about
night
this
special.
Yeah, bro.
I don't know how many times it's been said in this podcast. Wish we had like a counter. Harry Maguire, we had a shutout. Yeah, great.
Holy.
Fantastic. That dude takes 25 touches on the ball and takes 2 hours to make a pass. So we wonder why we can't break a team down that's sitting in a low block as he takes another touch, another fucking touch, another fucking touch, and then one more touch, and then add another on that, and then just plays it to the left and passes it to Luke Shaw. Like, it's
so bad.
It's the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in my entire life of how bad of a footballer he is. Let alone he wears the C. Like, Bruno's our captain, and he still wears the fucking C.
What I don't understand either is every single, team that we support has guys on their teams that get a little bit too much shtick in the media, and a lot of times it's rightfully so. Like, they don't play well, they don't whatever. The amount of protection that English media gives Harry Maguire is laughable. He's
a donkey. He's a literal donkey.
Listening to the pregame for this game, for the Leeds United game, in the pre-match lead up, they were talking about on television that it is a national tragedy that Harry Maguire doesn't play more minutes for Manchester United. And You don't know ball, man. Like he almost cost us a goal just because he sat on the ball at the halfway line and just like let the Patrick Bamford. Luckily, he doesn't have any speed, but
he did
like
recover. I was gonna say he did recover somehow.
But still, bro, like you're not catching fucking Martinez doing that. Like there's a reason why you're sitting on the bench, bro. It's not good. Harry Maguire's not a good player.
You think it has to do with maybe the national team and how?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I also
That's
think
probably exactly what it is.
We're already going to take like a $40 million hit when we sell him in the summer. So like we do need to like have him play just a little bit to like keep his value not at zero.
I was gonna say, what do you guys? I don't even know what you would even get for him. That's
probably about 40.
I was gonna say 35.
I think is what his value's at.
Okay.
But yeah, he'll be gone.
The Leeds, that game could have been the exact same. Both of them could have been the exact same.
1000%.
And as a heavy Leeds bettor, I did get I got a little testy with the United boys about it, but I was so heavily behind them, and you can see like the cohesiveness behind a relegation team. And I only getting weepy because two Americans play in the midfield, but like going on United Twitter was really, really enjoyable as an American. Like I just tweet after tweet that were like, one of the big United Twitters was like, these guys, Tyler and Wes, made like Savitzer and Fred look like prime McFred. And he's like, I can't believe we still have he was saying something about how their quality was just poor. And then everyone responding, we're United fans, were like, hey, did you ever stop to think a sec and maybe assume that these other kids, these Americans are good? Like they bossed them. They bossed them. And it was so fun to watch. And like you're right about them playing together since they were 12. Like they got two just full blown heavy tackles into the first 5 minutes of the game. Both of them. One of them was in the second minute. One of them was in the fourth. They were both clippable. I've seen clips of those tackles. And then I checked later, and they were both booked within 2 minutes of each other. Like that's just brotherhood. I love that shit. It's so fun.
Yeah, and pregame they're talking to each other like, we're gonna put in a tackle first time.
For sure. Sick. Those guys are captains in the locker room without wearing the band. So they're fun to watch, even if it's not for the quality of the football, but they'll lay into you. Like it's so fun. And if they could have capitalized on the early press, and they did it so well against you guys in the first game, but if they put a goal or two away, Ten Hag still goes and makes those adjustments. You guys still probably come back in both games.
Had some chances to score.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is if that's what they did to you in the first game, they just tagged two as quick as they possibly could, and then it's like, all right, let's lock this in, and then that's pretty much the downfall of every relegation team ever. But
I was gonna say
it's a big 3 points.
Yeah. I liked your shout, Dobes, on Ten Hag's adjustments, but it's also a game and a half worth of seeing Leeds. It's not him seeing only a half. You guys just recently played them. He's trying to figure it out in the first half.
The thing is,
Woot is a 10.
No, I'm saying it was still. Did you not hear the first part about it? I said great shout and the adjustments, but I'm just also saying he had a game and a half to try and figure out Leeds.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that take is only showcased because of the back-to-back game. Everyone has 2 games. You know what I'm saying? Like we just saw him twice in a very short amount of time,
which is an advantage. Like you're playing pretty much the same side unless they make their changes and adjustments to you.
True.
I'll take the 3 points because just the 3 points is massive because Ellen Road in that rivalry, that place was fucking bouncing.
Yeah, it was jumping.
Like that's one of those where last few years, I don't think we got a result right there. And it was literally 2 moments of brilliance. That was the best part of the United thing because we didn't have anything other than that. Truthfully, it was 2 moments of brilliance. And that was it.
We talk a lot about the difference between good and great teams, and the great teams are the ones that win those games. So that's true. That's the sign of a strong
getting
side.
results.
Yep. Moving on to City Villa. a 3-1 win for City. And before we get into the actual game itself, we covered last pod about all of the charges that came out against City, and this was the first game that they had since then. A lot of comments out in the press by Pep Guardiola from members of Manchester City, but this was the first time that the fans could show a demonstration. And I don't know about you all, but so like, I don't even know what the word is, like disappointed, but also like delusional. I feel like for the fans were. For those of you that didn't see it, there was like protests in the street. There were banners in the stands talking about how like the Premier League is trying to like do all of this stuff to Manchester City. And I'm like, dog, they don't
pretty much playing the victim card.
Yeah, like they don't have a case against you unless you're doing some sketchy shit. So it was just weird to see. And yeah, I want to get the thoughts on the group here.
I can't, first off, like I give Pep and the City fans, like you have to like credit for like being able to rally around it and use it as like a everybody against us, let's come together. But at the same time, I hate the poor me bullshit. They've spent how much fucking money over the last decade, and they've won how many fucking Prem titles over the last decade. The City fans are doing the, oh, poor us, we got these sanctions against us. It's like, fuck off. Seriously, they got their freaking lawyer's name on a sign,
on a banner in the middle
on
of the
a
stands,
banner. The
man.
lawyer's on $90K a week trying to defend them from fucking getting relegated. It's like, it's the
That
most fucking
sucks,
annoying
bro.
shit in the world. Like,
How much that's like, how much does your mom make, bro? Like, my mom makes more than your mom, bro. She's gonna get me out of this trouble, bitch.
So then on
That's
top
weak.
of that, they boo the Premier League anthem as that's going on in the lineups. They boo it. And I don't know. I just think that it's a super classless move by the fans. And I don't know.
I think it all rides off of Pep's response. I literally think how Pep responded was kind of how the fans were going to ride with it. Like if Pep would have taken the stance like we all kind of thought he was going to do, which was like, they lied to me. I don't know anything about this. Like, I'm gone. Like, I think then the fans probably would have been like, oh shit, like this could not be.
Because it's so early still. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Very true.
In order for him to like make this like title charge, like that they want to go on, like he kind of has to like,
yes. And I
be like
I
that.
agree. I agree.
Sucks.
He doesn't have that time yet where like there's no bans, there's nothing. Like we said, this is gonna take 2 or 3 years to happen. Yeah. And I think once it comes out, they actually
2 to
lie.
4, I think.
Then I actually think we may see a Pep. But right now, I got to give him credit. It's brilliant managing. It's like rallying the troops to go try to win a Prem title. Like
I was gonna say, like the fans are just fully on his side. I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, the team on the field certainly backed up that fan performance. With a 3-1 win, we saw a lot of goals and a lot of a big momentum early on with a 4th-minute goal from Rodri. This looked like the City of old. I don't know about you all, but this looked like the City of old. This is kind of what I expect from City. The last couple of games, they haven't shown this, obviously, but this is what I kind of expected.
I think
the dogs play, bro.
Holland had that great build-up play and that assist. And I know we all know this, but I don't think there's anybody faster on like a dead sprint than that man.
Insane.
Like it's fucking
crazy.
Disgusting.
He's an alien.
Like Gundogan played, KDB played, Rodri played, Holland played. Like he played the guys that have done this, dude. Like I think there's some. I think he went back to his guns and stopped trying to mix shit up and was just
trying to get some of those new guys in. Trying to get them adapted.
And Holland being in that build-up play changes them completely. Like they go from having an arm tied behind their back, just whipping crosses, to doing anything. Like to breaking you down however you want. But I think obviously the kid will probably grow into that eventually, and that won't happen every game either. But it's a terrifying team to play right now.
I think that
not everyone can beat them.
From that game, obviously City cruised, but like Holland came off with an injury in the 46th minute.
Yep, I was about to say.
So we're like we've seen, and I don't know if anybody's seen and can like figure out the extent of the injury. I just know that he came off, but we do know that like he missed extensive amount of time at Dortmund with like muscle injuries.
Mhm.
And I know we can kind of dive into a little more when we talk City Arsenal, but like that, I don't know if it's necessarily a massive loss for them. But at the same time, like we just don't know. Yeah, we haven't
Ju-
seen him really without him yet this year.
Julian Alvarez doesn't sound like a
Baller.
terrible replacement.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, we'll break down, like Dope said, we'll break down City Arsenal here in a second. But finishing out this week, we'll touch on the Merseyside derby, Liverpool coming out with points, which is something we haven't seen in a while. So big shouts to Butch there. I want to hear your thoughts on this game. I know a couple of us watched it.
Couldn't
Butch
pay
wanted
me
us
watch it,
to-
so you guys go ahead.
Butch wanted us to make sure to say that this was the best they've looked. Did I get that quote right this year?
I think this is the official statement from Butch.
That was his statement. Couldn't be with us this evening, but yeah, they looked good. They looked good. You know,
Yeah,
they stuffed out whatever Everton had, which wasn't much. So
I thought they looked fine.
Yeah, I was
Good
gonna
is
say, I don't think
generous.
they were Liverpool of old, like what
Yeah.
we like their great years, whatever he wants to call them. But like I definitely thought they played better than what they have been playing. I also thought Joe Gomez, like I think he's been getting a lot of stick lately. I thought he played pretty well.
Mhm.
But also like I really wanted to bring up Fabinho because I love that Dobbs had it on the outline as well because he was real bad. Real bad. And I think it's interesting how quickly him going from, I'm not going to say world class because I overused the word, but like a really good center defensive mid to like not that at all. And like the difference between that, I think it's pretty crazy.
I mean, it was laughable today how
Yeah.
bad he was. And I can never pronounce his name, but 43 in the middle for Liverpool. He's like that young Spanish kid that Butch loves. We've brought him up a couple times on the pod about how he's been like a bright spot for Liverpool. He played awesome again today. He was great. He was awesome. But when you're being outplayed by an 18-year-old, not great for big old Fabinho there. That's a terrible shout. Fabinho is bad. I will give flowers, to two people. Trent played a world-class ball out from the right on Gakpo's goal. I mean, I thought it was offsides at first. It super was not offsides, but pick that out of a gallery, man. That ball was beautiful for Gakpo's first goal. But the other thing is Connor Cody from Everton pulling his best Casemiro impression, putting his hands around the neck of Andy Robertson,
Terrible.
and not even a foul. So the agenda against United.
There's only one
agenda
hand.
against United is there, fellas. It's there.
It was like they were gonna kiss. It was one hand just like this. Like
Cassie in the prison cell.
Just so our listeners know, Henry and Dobbs for the past week have been sending every single snippet or clip.
I'm doing my best VAR impression.
Even close to someone's neck into our group message to be like, where's the red? They should be in jail.
I'm doing my best VAR impression.
There. Congratulations to Butch.
I was gonna say, I think the one thing that hasn't been mentioned here is like I can't even describe how bad Liverpool have been for the last month. They just bumped above Chelsea.
Here it comes. I know.
They just bumped above 611 million Chelsea. So I know Butchie's not here, and Butchie, he's not that confrontational.
A week.
So he wouldn't give that much shit, but they just bumped above you guys with the game in hand.
All right, I'm gonna say the stat that I was holding for when Butch was gonna be back here.
Perfect.
Since Klopp has taken over for Liverpool, right?
Yes.
Would you say it's probably their best years, right?
No,
I know where this is going.
No,
no,
it's not their best years.
But they've had good years as under Klopp.
They've had a solid.
Yes, they have had good years under Klopp.
Since Klopp has been the manager of Liverpool, Chelsea has
tenure.
won every single thing that Liverpool has won and the Europa League.
And they're terrible this year, and they're above you.
And we're awful. We've been playing bad.
I don't know what the history means when you're 10.
Yeah, but when you look at the last 5 years, who gives a fuck, bro? Arsenal have been ass since 2001, and they're at the top of the table right now.
What did I do?
Nick, it's a great stat. I saw that on Twitter. I thought that it was crazy. Yeah. Terrible placement on this pod to use.
I know. I wanted to save it for Butch.
You wasted that at the worst.
You wasted it.
I know. I was holding off. I saw it today.
Dude, you should
put that back in the clip.
You should have said a factor cap and said that Chelsea have had just as successful last, 6 years or whatever wasted.
Wasted it. My bad.
That rounds out our weekly recap. Every episode we look back on the big games that happened for our clubs over the last week, and we're gonna look ahead now. Before we get into Champions League and Europa League, let's talk about the big boys. City Arsenal, number 1 against number 2 on Wednesday. This is a big one. This is huge. This has title implications. This sets the course of the race for the rest of the season.
I love that phrase. Title implications. That's such a fun phrase.
Yeah, bro. It's there. It's there.
Big words.
Peter Drury on the mic. Lucas, what are your thoughts ahead of the game? How are you feeling? And then the boys, I want to hear your thoughts as well.
I'm excited. I think that this is a big bounce back game for us, kind of like how Brentford should have been. But we saw glimpses of greatness when, we played them last, and we've lost to them, I think, the last 8 times that we've played City. But this is the kind of game that we need to get ourselves going again. I know we touched on it briefly, but Haaland went off at half against Villa with a knock, and we've seen what City are capable of without Haaland, which is obviously scary and equally as scary with him. But it's obviously a game that we need to win, and we need to win our home games. And, City are coming to the Emirates knowing that if they win, they'll move to the top of the table in goal differential. But, we will have a game in hand. I don't know. I think something's going to change for Arteta in training this week, and we're going to see that on Wednesday.
I'm curious, how do you think Winks because as all soccer footy nerds, this is going to be a tactical, just what every single footy fan wants to see. And I'm so curious to see how this game plays out, because of all the teams in the Prem, both of these two teams dominate the ball more than anybody else. And so I don't necessarily know if I can give a prediction, because I can see Arsenal winning. I can see City winning. I'm just very curious to see how Arteta sets up, because there's not many teams in the world that City plays against where they don't dominate possession. And not saying that Arsenal won't still do that at times, but I think overall
we've
City
been the same way against everybody this season. I think that there's been one game where we didn't have over 50%.
Haven't played City.
You're right. They haven't played us either.
Yeah,
Lucas, look at that. That was a line.
Spin zone.
I texted Nate earlier. I texted Nate the other day. I said, I'm calling it now after they tied. I said, I'm calling 3-0 City, whether Haaland plays or not. So I think I might have to stick with that.
I was gonna.
It's so we just talked about last week, 2 weeks ago. It's so team form based too.
Which City shows up, which Arsenal shows up. What team does Pep even put on the field?
Yeah,
Gundogan made obviously such a big difference for them on Sunday, but
insane.
He just sometimes hasn't been playing. So
yeah,
and I know in previous games, Butch has said in his analysis of their games, you bring Gundogan on way earlier or at all, and he changes the game completely. So yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're right, and I think that's the kicker. This is going to be a big lineup one, right? We're going to be waiting for those lineups, and we're going to make immediate assumptions. But 4-1 against Villa is a great result in the sense they just forgot how to bag goals really quick, and remembered that they can do that. So I think that's going into an Arsenal team who's dropped points 2 weeks in a row for the first time this year. So it's super interesting, and it's a good thing that it's at the Emirates for you guys. But Spurs caught them in a rut. Spurs caught them at the very end of a couple games where they looked pretty poor, and Spurs just capitalized when they could. So I think I could see it
over 2.5.
Sure. Both over 2.5, 2-2. I think 2-2 is something that could be pretty tasty, because they lead goals too, bro.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
They give up a lot of chances. I think Dobes, the whole possession thing. I think both teams are going to have possession in the game. And to bring up my official second basketball analogy in this entire history of this podcast, just like the game of basketball. I I think it's crazy when you look at across and some guy puts up 24 points on you and you can still have a good game. Like, I think that that's wild. But basketball just goes in scoring routes. Like, sometimes people go on like 12-0 scoring routes and you just have to do that because you know that your team's going to get one too. I think whichever team can hunker in and play defensively for whatever amount of time that is going to have the upper hand. I don't know who is better equipped for that because we don't always see that when these teams get exposed. A lot of the time it's on the counterattack. But whoever can just like hold off that pressure for a while, because I think both teams are going to have plenty of the ball.
That was more of my point, to where like Arsenal hasn't had to like hunker down and sit in 2 blocks of 4 and actually like, you know what I mean, defend a team that's just swinging the ball around. So it'll be very interesting, because I do think where we haven't like seen Arsenal that much this year because they've had so much of the ball is they can be extremely dangerous on the counter, like extremely dangerous on the counter. Like Saka's electric on the counter. Martinelli's like electric on the counter, and Nketiah can be electric on the counter, and Odegaard's the guy that can pull the strings as well. That's why I just think the way that these two teams set up is going to be like just so interesting.
I completely agree with you, but I feel like Hoover had a really good point that it's so much momentum, and like City coming off that big win, Arsenal dropping 2 points back to back. I think a big thing in this is substitutions. So I'm really, really intrigued as to how Arteta and Pep make substitution in this game when they do have to make adjustments. And I think that goes into like depth. Like obviously Arsenal's depth isn't as good as City's depth. So I think that is going to be a big part as well. So I see it like 2-0 City, 2-1 City. I don't know if they score 4 goals.
Well, I was just going to say, I want the official predictions from each one of you. Winks, you'll finish it. So, Nick, I'll have you start. Yeah. What's your prediction? What are you going to ride?
Okay, I'll pick. I say 2-1 final. I think the possession is going to, like the fight for possession is going to cause less goals, is in my opinion.
2-1 City,
2-1
I'm assuming.
Oh, 2-1 City. Yeah, sorry. My apologies.
Dobes?
3-0 City. This Arsenal collapse is going to be the best thing that's happened in a long time.
Hoover?
I'm going to go 2-2. I think no, I'm not going to give credit to either side. I'm going to go 2-2. We can just end on that.
Nice. I'm going to go 3-1 City. Not a lot of love for Arsenal in this chat right now. Wings, round us out. What's your prediction for the game?
I deserve it. I'm an asshole. I think that the boys learn from the 1-0 loss and we win 2-1, or Holland gets a late one and it ends 2-2. Either way, both teams to score and the over. Hammer it.
Book it.
Hammer it. We're excited for that. I think all fans of the sport are going to be excited for that one. Let's talk some Champions League, shall we?
Yes, let's. Absolutely.
The only thing
okay, so we're going to start off on the Tuesday games. So the Tuesday games are juicy. We have Tottenham, AC Milan, and then we have Bayern Munich, PSG. So Hoove, you're going to start off with Tottenham, AC Milan. Let's get your prediction. Give us a little preview.
This is we're back to I have no idea territory with Spurs.
Get back to that pretty quickly.
We're back. It's back to square one. You know the lineup, or you know the ideal lineup that Conte will want to put out. Højbjerg's on a suspension, so that leaves Pepe something Sarr, 20-year-old, who's looked good when he's played sparingly. He was loaned out last season in France and played a lot of minutes. And I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about the kid. I think he plays mostly in a 6. We're probably going to be asking him to play a little bit further up the field here for a while, but he's going to pair probably with Oliver Skip, who I don't not rate, but I definitely am not excited for him to be leading the midfield against AC Milan at the San Siro. So AC Milan is in good form. They're hit or miss.
They've won one of their last 5 games.
Okay. I lied about them being in form. That was me making myself feel better.
That should make you feel better.
They're not. No, I'm saying
they have some dogs though.
AC I'm saying for the inevitable downfall. Yeah, there's guys you're scared of. I think Dude, I don't even know what to think, frankly. I really don't. You've got world-class players on both sides of the ball that can make things happen for sure. I'm scared of shots at Fraser Foster. So I think any team that watched last game is going to be like, yo, just pull up. And they've got a couple guys that can pull up.
Who's going to pull up? Jorginho Dest is going to pull up. We've all seen it for the USA national team. Guy loves a shot from outside the box.
Is he injured? He might be injured.
That'd be such a shame.
He's out till late February.
I would have loved to see that. No, I think I don't know what to think. We could see Richarlison start. He's played well in the Champions League when he's played.
What's the deal with Conte? Will Conte be on the sidelines yet, or like is there?
Conte, I think so update? For this one. He's been back. He's been back at training. He's done all the training stuff. He's just not been on the sidelines, and he's not taking media. But I assume he'll be back. He's
like a blessing in disguise. Just focus on footy.
Yeah, he should have. Yeah, I don't know. He should have stayed another week at home because they played great against City without him. So would have maybe liked another 3 points. But it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a good match. Spurs will hunker down, spring the counter. The guys still up top are still those guys. So they've got some really good memories of the San Siro. So
I hate saying this, but I like your guys' chances. I'm looking on FOTMob right now at the probable lineups, and I don't think that this is the formation. So they're predicted to play in a 3-5-2, which they don't always play in.
FOTMob is always standing wild with those.
Yeah, and this could be totally wrong, but for the sake of conversation, like 3-5-2, they're gonna have a lot of players forward. And as you guys know, your strongest point's the counter. So I like your odds in the counter in this game if they go a 3-5-2 and they bring 7 of their 10 field players forward.
Yeah. And you just bank on the guys up top because I think they're going to give up shots. I don't think, the midfield's going to be as organized as they always are, which is also just that's somewhere that they lack anyway. So you scratch further down the depth chart, and it could be a pretty explosive match. I think there could be goals, but they like to play defensive. Like, one chance is all Conte needs. If you get one chance, you put it away. That's it.
One
lock it down.
One chance is all it takes.
Dua Lipa, baby. Before we move on, give us the score prediction. What do you think?
Any points away, I think, keeping the game, I forget its legs now. Keeping the game within reach away on the first leg is the most important. So I could see a 1-1 draw. I could see a 2-1 finish.
Hope a win. Draw's fine.
Yeah.
2-1 finish would be great. Or 1-1 finish would be great. 2-1 would be dreamland, and then you just protect a lead at home. So
that's fair.
I think 1-1's realistic, and then come home and win it. Like that's what you have to do.
That'd be huge. Excited to watch.
It'll be good.
Bayern Munich PSG. This is
I'm so stoked for this game.
This is a fucking tasty one.
Yeah.
Be a sick game. This is what the Champions League's all about. Like these big games like this. Kind of a shame that it's in the round of 16. You would love to see it further down the line. But what are our thoughts?
This was a final matchup in the last couple of years, right? 2 years ago.
I don't know what to think because this is another one. We're just talking about City fans being spoiled. I don't know if you guys have followed PSG at all, but PSG is still top of the table. They're 5 points clear. The last 2 games, I think they lost to Monaco 3-1 and then Marseille 2-1. And the PSG fans are booing, going psycho to where Kimpembe had to go over and apologize to the fans and stuff like that. It's just spoiled, rotten fans. But I think the good part is Messi was joined back in training this week. He was hurt. Mbappe joined back in training this week. He's hurt. So I think this one is going to be probably the best game of the round of 16, or at least has a chance to live up to it. Because Bayern hasn't exactly been the Bayern that we've seen of old. Yes, they're still in first in Bundesliga. They're only a point up on Union Berlin, 2 points up on Borussia Dortmund. So they're not exactly cruising either. So both of these teams aren't exactly in their best form. But then again, every single time you see these two on paper, you expect fireworks to where I think the tactical battle that how how do you pronounce his name correctly? Nagelsmann. Did I say that correctly?
Mhm.
The
Julian Nagelsmann. Yep.
Julian Nagelsmann. How he decides to stop Messi, stop Mbappe, it's gonna be fun to watch.
I've read that Mbappe is not going to start. He's set to come off the bench. So I do think that's a wrinkle because you want your dogs out there. That's a huge loss.
Yeah. Yeah, but you think that you can take him to obviously the second leg and you get that like extra week to rest him up, 2 weeks to rest him up. I think that I don't know. I think Nick, you made a comment about the Arsenal City game about the depth here. PSG does not have the depth that Bayern has. I mean, PSG's bench is laughable. It's so bad. There's like 16-year-olds, that are on that bench. They just don't have anyone. So I'm gonna edge Bayern here in the first leg, to be honest with you.
I would too.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy shout. And I also was actually going to bring that up. Like, I think depth is huge here. I also am excited to see Cancelo. I hope he actually gets to play and get some minutes in this game. I'm hoping
he's been
starts.
balling for him.
I know. I'm excited.
He'll probably
to see
start,
how
to
he
be
does
honest with
against
you.
them.
Yeah. Score predictions. Do we want to do score predictions real quick for this one?
Yeah, we can.
Nick, go for it. What do you think?
I'm taking 2-2 draw.
Ooh, nice. I'm actually gonna echo that. I think it's gonna be a 1-1 draw, but I think a draw here.
I like 1-1.
I'm going to go 2-1 Bayern. I think they've got it in them.
That's nice.
I'm gonna be different. Let's see, where's it? It's at the Parc des Princes. I'm gonna go PSG 2-1. But I still can see Bayern advancing, going back home. Like if it's a 2-1, that second leg is set up for just again fireworks because these two teams can score at will when they're both hot. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2-2, but I'm just gonna take 2-1 just to be different and because PSG's at home.
I'm gonna love watching Messi just curl one into the top corner. This is what he does in the Champions League.
This is, and I don't mean to get emotional here, but not this is Messi's last hurrah. We just don't know what he's going to do after this season, where he's going to go. Whether he goes to Inter Miami, whether he goes back to Barcelona. There's rumors he's going to sign a new contract. I don't even want to say it. This is his last run in the Champions League, but it very well could be. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him step up and do what we've seen Messi do in big moments.
Love that.
It's a great shout.
Moving on to Wednesday, this is actually my favorite matchup of the Champions League right now. We have Chelsea against Dortmund. Goals galore in this one. Goals galore. Nick, I'm going to start it off with you. Give us the predictions and give us your thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah, kind of like how I mentioned before with the City Arsenal game, and Hoover kind of mentioned it as well about momentum. I think this may be the case as well. Dortmund's on a 7-game win streak and they're scoring a shit ton of goals, and we're kind of trying to find form right now. So I think this is a huge game for us and a deciding one for Potter as well. So I'm really intrigued about the lineup that he puts out. I think if he gets the right lineup and takes out Cucurella, and to be honest, we pull Kai, who are we putting there? Zhao, but then we lose him in the 10 role.
You got world-class Mason Mount, dude.
So you would take Mason over Kai? I'm just
truthfully, I would because what you guys miss is that vertical threat. You guys need something, and especially Dortmund. They haven't given up that many goals over the last 5, but they have just leaked goals earlier in the year.
But so have we, which is the problem.
Yeah,
and the over's only 2.5.
Oh my God! And Dortmund's plus 140 at home, boys. No, I think this is going to be a good one for sure.
This is one to throw the mortgage on.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a great game. But also, like I said before, it's very critical for Potter on this one. I think.
I think we can't trust Potter's lineup to the point where I just think Dortmund do it. Dortmund at home, behind the wall, in the form that they've been in, and if they do stop leaking those goals, I think Chelsea's gonna have problems. This one's gonna be really fun because I think Chelsea has it at some point in the squad. It's there. I don't think it's Wednesday, and I don't think it's against Dortmund.
Yeah, I also think
that's a really good call. That's a really good call, Hoof.
Yeah, I also think someone who I thought played very well last game for us was Badio Shield. And he is not on the Champions League roster.
That's
Me and Jake kind of talked about it in the Mecca moments. I truly think it was Potter being like, yo, we signed a lot of center backs. I'm going to have to play them. You're the man of the future. Like, can you sit this one out for us? I know that sounds so shitty, and especially
wouldn't the man of the future want Champions League
win.
experience?
I know. I don't know. I'm trying. What do you want me to say, Dobes? What do you think he was thinking? Like shit. Like,
I personally think he's clueless.
Yeah, but I think without Badios Shield and a back four, like I'm interested to see who starts there and how we do possession wise. So yeah, I think this one's an interesting game. I think there's going to be a lot of goals because Dortmund's been scoring a lot of them and we've been leaking a lot. I also think Dortmund's leaking a lot of goals. I'm predicting 2-2 or 3-2 Chelsea.
Yeah, and obviously FOTMob's not everything, but I just looked at, who's projected to be out, and other than Makoko, who has actually played a lot for Dortmund this year, they don't really have any big dogs out, but I guess I just didn't realize how many injuries Chelsea had.
Oh shit. Yeah, we have a shit ton.
Zing.
Got him.
I'm excited for Dortmund. I've watched so much Borussia Dortmund this year just because of one, of Jude, and two, I love Marco Reus. I'm happy to see him back healthy, and I hope he plays. I think I'm going to go 2-1 Dortmund, but I can also see 5 goals in this game. I could very easily see 5 goals either in the game going either way.
I'm for sure 3-1 Dortmund. I think there's goals. I think they win heavy.
I'm going to go 2-0 Dortmund. 2-0.
3-1 Dortmund.
And before we advance, I know Henry, you stepped away for a second. I did want to get your take because I was asking Dobes this as well. Obviously, we mentioned before when we were talking about Chelsea, Kai's form hasn't been great of late. Who would you? Let's say we pull Kai out. Who would you like to see up top? Dobes said he would like to see Zhao, but then I asked him who he would like to see in the 10 underneath. If Zhao is not there, so I just kind of wanted to pick your brain as well.
For the sake of my bets, I want Aubameyang.
He didn't make the Champions League roster.
No,
right?
hell no.
Yeah, he's not in it.
He had to play Dortmund.
He did not have that conversation with Graham Potter about the future.
Yeah, he said no. Zhao 1,000%, and okay. I'm playing a 5-2-3 if I'm Graham Potter. Dude, okay. I'm playing Zhao. So something that, I didn't mention about Gabriel Jesus whenever Lucas was talking about him, but something that was so fun to watch before Jesus got hurt was he was the 9 for sure, but he played all the way across the field. He would pop up, he would link up play on either side of the box, in the middle. He just kind of had a free role. He was just the most forward person. That's what João Felix is going to do. He's going to play in that 9 position, but he's just going to go side to side. And you're probably holding with Kovacic and Enzo, or you're going to do Enzo and whoever wants to play next to Enzo when he's healthy. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. But I think you guys will do a 5-2-3. I don't think that there's going to be a 10.
I think it's so interesting, though, because Zhao makes sense as a 9. But if Zhao plays, I think it's a game where you almost can't play Ziyech. And what I mean by that is Zhao will tuck inside to come find the ball. Who's going to be that winger that's going to make those darting in behind runs to stretch the field? And that's not Ziyech. I mean, that could be Mudryk.
I always forget his name.
I'm not exactly. I mean, he's been okay.
I liked him. To be fair,
I don't even know who these cats are, bro. Sound like they just came off a coffee label.
Yeah, because you haven't signed someone in how long?
Hey, bro.
Pedro Porro.
Yeah, put him in there.
We have one final game of this Champions League matchup. Benfica versus Club Brugge. That's a Wednesday kickoff as well. Do we have thoughts here? I will be the first one to say that I have not watched Club Brugge at all this year other than the Champions League, but I am still going to pull for them because Benfica lost Enzo Fernandez, and that's a big old loss in the middle of the park.
I don't have any thoughts, truthfully. I mean, I've only watched Benfica a couple times this year, and it was strictly the first half of the season to watch Enzo Fernandez. I just looking at the game. I mean, Benfica won 4 of their last 5, 3-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-0, only conceded 1 goal in the last 5. Looking at Club Brugge, their form is, I mean, they've tied 4 of their last 5 and also not given up a lot of goals. So, I mean, you would think you take Benfica here, but I don't know enough about Bruges to truthfully give like a rating on them. Betting man, taking Benfica money line or over or something like that, but I don't have an opinion on this game.
I think this is a classic. I think some of these Portuguese teams and some of these teams that are outside of, the big, the Premier League and whatnot. This is a classic, like 0-0 battle to one team gets an 89th minute scruffy breakaway.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that happens a lot. I don't have a ton of thoughts on it either. I would say under 2.5 is probably safe. Frankly, just
no Ramos, Gonçalo Ramos, the guy that we saw from Portugal for the World Cup, the stud. He's out till the end of this month too. So
we saw a lot of him.
We saw so much of
Twitter.
him. We didn't need to see as much of him as we did.
During the group stages, whenever Bruges was playing Atletico Madrid, I was listening to some podcast, some preview, and they're like, if you have any amount of money, put it on the under. Two teams that don't score goals, Bruges and Atletico Madrid. Put every cent that you have on them. But we'll see, this episode next week, whenever we rejoin, we will see how we fared on our predictions for the Champions League. For the Europa League on Thursday, Dobes and I are actually going to do a Mecca Moments this week surrounding Manchester United, not only looking ahead to the Barcelona and the Manchester United game, but also just give you a status update of what we think of the team up to this point. So be looking.
They know what you think.
Everybody knows on the Europa League too. Interesting.
Talk about a final coming up. Talk about who's going to buy. Elon Musk rumored to put a bid in today for United. So talk about the future owner.
Good luck.
That would be
I want him to buy United.
We'd be living in simulation.
We'd be taking a kit. Yeah, I was gonna say we'd be taking a spaceship to go play in Champions League.
Yeah, a Tesla kit sponsor
would be gnarly.
Crazy.
Yeah, it would be
gnarly. Without Butch here, I'm going to take the reins of the Factor Cap tonight, fellas. Are you ready for this?
Yee.
Been cooking this up.
Cap.
Bro, are you ready for this? All right. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is better at defending than Trent Alexander-Arnold is at attacking.
Oh, I thought you were about to just say defending, and I was be like, this is the easiest thing I've ever heard in my life.
So Wan-Bissaka is better at defending than Trent is at attacking.
This season?
The
Or involved collectively
question, the
in their career?
The body of work.
The body of work, Hoof.
I think Cap, because I think Trent on his offensive game where he's not even being relied upon on the right side, he's putting in insane, deliveries constantly. He's so technical. I think he influences the game more in an offensive way than Wan-Bissaka does defensively. But I think
completely agree with that.
I rated Wan-Bissaka when he was at Crystal Palace. I thought that kid was going to be a stud, and I think he is a great defender. Dude, there was so much hype, bro.
We said 50 million, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
He was a pretty penny too. Yeah, there was a lot of hype on that. I don't think he changes the game quite the way that Trent changes the game on the other side of the field.
I completely agree with Hoover. Piggybacking off of it, I'm not saying Gareth Southgate is like the smartest manager ever, but like he picked Trent to come onto that side for probably his offense and not Wan-Bissaka for his defense. So,
I mean, that's true. Trent made the squad.
Yeah.
Wan-Bissaka didn't. Trent didn't see the field, just like Wan-Bissaka.
Yep.
They probably have the same amount of minutes for,
Like I said, I'm more piggybacking off of Hoover was just adding something to it.
Sure.
That Gareth Southgate guy, top quality bloke.
Yeah.
This is so tough to me just because I think that, obviously, Hen and I watch every single United game, not expecting you guys to, even though you guys probably do anyway.
Biggest club in the world.
Grow up.
Here's the thing. I don't necessarily know if there's another defender that I would want in the Premier League for a 1v1 that I'd want Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And I think that I can name 3 or 4.
Nick's like Reece James.
Probably 3 or 4 better. Like, I think Reece James is a better right back going forward than
Trent.
I don't know. This is like I don't even know how to judge this right now. I want to say
It's
fact.
tough.
I want to say fact to defend like Wan-Bissaka because his name's a spider for a reason. Like he plays like he's got like 4 or 5 legs. Even if he does get beat, he still finds a way to like wrap his leg around you and just get the ball and not have a foul. That was one of those things. I don't know if you guys remember that Zaha play from earlier in the year where he made that recovery run and Zaha has the quote. He's like, I turned around and I saw it was Aaron Wan-Bissaka and I knew instantly that it was the one person that could probably catch me and make that
anybody but him. Anybody but him. He said he was scoring that goal.
Anybody but him. I'm gonna go fact just because I don't want to give Butch the satisfaction of saying that Trent's good at anything. So I'm gonna go fact. I don't have much to base it off of other than I'm spiting Butch here.
You all know where I stand. This is a big
Absolutely.
old fact. This is a big old fact, gentlemen.
And
This
that's
is a
the
big old
episode.
fact. Here's the deal. For both of them,
We also have to say this that Hen came up with this, so Hen's had a lot of time to think about this.
Yeah,
I'm
of
in
course.
I'm in it. The thing is,
he probably
if
has
the-
like articles back
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
The setup the whole time.
So the inverse of this is even funnier. What is worse, Wan-Bissaka going forward or Trent defending? That's a
defending.
funnier.
Oh, that's
a
great.
funnier
Trent
thing.
defending.
But so that's why this is funny.
Because he
So like
doesn't do it.
the opposite. So like we look at Wan-Bissaka terribly because of him going forward, and we look at Trent terribly because of him defending. If they were like average at the other, this would be the craziest
combine them?
conversation.
You combine
Yeah,
the
that would be disgusting. But I just think that Wan-Bissaka not being able to go forward is more. I would rather have that than Trent not being able to defend. And I know that that's not the argument,
I think that's a
but
good
when I look at what I want in my team, I want my back four to be so solid defensively. And if my wing back is like attacking and flying down the wing and crossing balls in, that's additive, but they're not in the attacking position that I'm basing my attack.
Yeah,
off
but that
of.
wasn't
like
the question.
But what I'm saying is like he's better at defending. He's better at defending than Trent is moving forward because like I just don't.
Because you
I don't
value
see the same.
defending more. Yeah.
I love defending, but for me, he still edges it.
Me and Wan-Bissaka had a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Real good defenders, pretty quick.
Hey, I don't know. Tuesday nights you be bagging some goals, dude. I don't know what you're talking
Dude,
about.
I came into my technical ability late in life. I think. I never had touch like that.
Well, gentlemen, that wraps up tonight's episode of the Mecca Banter podcast. It was a cracker. Follow us on all of our socials. You know, we have our Instagram, we have our TikTok pop in. Follow the Twitter. Stay tuned this week for the Mecca Moments Part 2 coming out with Dobes and me. And as always, have a great rest of the week, fellas. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers,
Cheers,
boys. Yeah.
fellas.